Welcome back to Block TV. It's time for Trader's Take. Now, as Bitcoin continues to trade sideways and dominance is showing signs of slightly dropping, we want to turn to the people who know the market best and absolutely know what they're talking about. Joined, as usual, by Block TV analyst Joe Saz, and today with a guest speaking to us from Colorado is a technical analyst known online as Sawcruhteez, only as cool people are known. Hi, Sawcruhteez. Hi, Joe. How are you guys?
Good morning.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Ren.
So as I kind of said there in the intro, a lot is happening. Yesterday we kind of touched a bit on this only with Joe solo to kind of see what's going on. It looks like we're headed to 12 and then we're not. So can you guys break down a little bit what is going on?
Yeah, Sock, if you had that one chart, I want to see how your 4 hour with the ADX going on. Do you have that up, or is that hard to get to?
I can pull that up, not a problem. And it's actually going to be the daily ADX that we'll be taking a look at. And the 4 hour was the channel that was being drawn. So we can just kind of stick with the daily across the board here. And this is the most important chart to me right here. Last week we were looking at this channel as we were coming up to test the top of it. There was some good reasons to think why we could go ahead and break right through, and also some reasons to be concerned for a at least short-term correction. First thing right here was the TD sequential 9, which is a sell setup that was combined with a hanging man candle right there at resistance, and sure enough we have pulled back off of that. And the ADX is what Joe asked about specifically. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that is visible for everyone. And what we were looking at is the ADX crossing 20 as the price tried to break through a boundary or the current market structure of this bearish parallel channel. So it was crossing 20 right here as we got the 9 on the TD sequential, as well as the hanging man. So that could have potentially been viewed as a buy signal, seeing this cross above 20 with the plus DI above the negative DI. But I personally was very much passing up on that and expecting a pullback, because this crossing 20 didn't happen as we were breaking through and creating a new high above this boundary. And instead we've seen buy pressure decrease and sell pressure start to increase. So as long as we are below the top of this channel, I'm actually expecting a return back down to about 87.75 is my target.
Do you have a time frame, or this is kind of speculation and let's see?
This would have a time frame based on this swing target here. Just gives us an idea of how far and fast the price has been moving while it has been in this market structure. So it's not the most precise, is a bit of a guess in terms of the timing, but that does tend to be pretty accurate, getting an idea of how fast and far these swings are moving. So when I made a post on Twitter, it was starting right here and pulling back down to right around here on August 17th, 2019.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add to that is it looks like we've been fanning out since the bottom end of your channel reached the top. It was a sharp angle. The second bottom to the top was a little bit of a lesser angle. The third bottom to the top was a bit less of an angle. So I see us fanning out. I could definitely see this spacing out over the next 10 days or so. So I like this chart. I really liked your analysis last time. So I'm actually in agreement. I was really curious how we'd react at the top end of your channel there, and it seems like we've broken down. So I mean, I'm always ready as for a pump fake, but I think this is still a dangerous time to trade. But I would be a little more confident in my shorts right now.
Joe, can you elaborate? Yep. Why would you say that this is a difficult time to trade?
Oh, well, just look at the chart. Here, Sock, let me take over some screen share for a sec. This is what makes this a difficult time to trade, in my opinion. We have humongous price swings, and we have dwindling volume. So right now we had, this is probably one of the highest local volume swings. We had a 10% day, but we've also had with half the volume, we've had about the same amount of price action at various points. Here's a 10% day with probably about a third the amount of volume. So the thing that makes this such a difficult time to trade is liquidity. If we're swinging back and forth, up and down, right, and the bulls and the bears are fighting it out, it means that the order book, when major sell pressure or buy pressure in either direction, it's going to mean that the volatility swings are going to be greater with less volume, and that's what makes it scary to trade right now. You could think that everything is lined up perfectly, your ducks in a row, I'll show you an example of a trade that I thought was going to be, that this trade lost me money. Right here, we had a setup trend line resistance, we had a 9 buy, I was expecting the 1 to 4 candle pullback, we moved up pretty quickly, and then you see how we hit those red dotted lines, right? That's called the setup trend line. Now, this was in the bearish case scenario, we were due for a 1 to 4 candle pullback. We rejected off that setup trend line, closed below the 50 MA. This was, in my opinion, a good trade to go short because we were also lower than the previous swing high. So, and we were creating a bit of a descending triangle here. So I was very confident in this trade and ended up getting killed. So that's there's a number of things that make this market a particularly difficult market to trade. But right now, especially with the volatile price swings and the dwindling volume, I'm going to be a little skeptical. It's very hard to predict. All it takes is $10 million to move the price up, $500, even though we're at this price, in the 11Ks. Normally, you'd think that with a thick liquidity book, it would take a lot more money to move the price like that.
So Sawcruhteez, kind of last week when you were on, sorry to cut you off there, Joe, but last week when you were on, you kind of, I believe, said something along the lines of Bitcoin is speculative enough when we were referring to kind of altcoins. Now kind of keeping in line with Joe's sentiment here on this being a difficult time for traders. How would you take that to your field of expertise?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Joe that this is a very difficult time to trade, but I would think just maybe for some different reasons, I am viewing this as a very difficult spot. This has been a no trade zone for me for at least a week, maybe more than that now. And what I am looking at is the fact that markets tend to trend about 30% of the time, and they tend to range about 70% of the time. And when we're stuck in a range, using trend trading techniques are just going to get whipsawed in and out, chopped up and down, and that is going to cost a lot more than it is worth. So if you can avoid the choppy areas and just trade when the market is actually trending, that is where all the money is made. And in terms of the altcoins, what I have noticed is that when Bitcoin starts to get stuck in a range, that's when altcoins will start to try to make back some of their market cap dominance. When Bitcoin goes up, at least during this year, it's been gaining market cap dominance. When Bitcoin goes down, it has been gaining market cap dominance throughout this year. When Bitcoin goes sideways, alts have been eking back a little bit of the dominance and then giving that right back once Bitcoin breaks out of the range and starts to trend one way or the other.
A lot of things to kind of ponder there. Yeah, continue on, Joe.
No, those are some amazing points, and that kind of moves into a different topic, right? The question is, we're talking about swinging dominance, right? Alts to Bitcoin, Bitcoin to alts, or mostly alts to Bitcoin. So, Sock, let me ask you this: where do you think that this money that's driving this run is isolated? Do you think there's a lot of money coming from the outside, or do you think this is mostly isolated altcoin money driving the price up? And if so, which of the two do you think it is, and what's your play out in either scenario?
I do think that a big part of this price action has been driven by altcoins kind of flying to safety, I guess, if you will, getting out of the altcoins and buying Bitcoin. I think that's been a huge part of the buying pressure. I think the other biggest part has just been people who are buying back in what they sold in 2017. The majority didn't sell, but those who did have had a tremendous opportunity to buy back for much cheaper. They've had fiat sitting on the sidelines, whether it be in USD or Tether or anything else. They've been waiting, and as soon as they got some sort of sign or some sort of momentum, they started buying back in. So those are the two areas where I'm seeing the most demand come from.
So with that being said, it still feels isolated. We're still on an island, you know, and so what do you think is going to happen if or when Bitcoin, you know, right now your price target is 87.50. That's looking pretty good. You know, I believe in time my intermediate, with the halvening, obviously that's a wrench, right? You know, anything can happen around a halvening, especially leading up to it. But the thing is, I'm even thinking we could go lower. You know, if your channel is looking like 87.50's resistance, we create a new swing low, and then what else is on the table after 9K has been broken? I don't know if we're going to hold these numbers if money is coming from altcoins, 2017, 2018 sideline money, and then we start breaking down. Well, then I just see the same emotion that's getting that 2017-18 money into this particular crypto asset, Bitcoin, and altcoin money flowing back in. Then I just don't see a supportive mentality in terms of market psychology if there is some sort of break to the downside.
I think you make some really good points, and I agree with you.
So kind of breaking away from that segment and segueing into these altcoins that everybody loves so much. Yesterday we were talking about, Joe and I spoke, we were talking about Ethereum a bit. Things were really not looking too great for the long run, but we do see some green today. Do you still think that holds true? Let's look at the charts and you tell me.
Yeah, all right, so let's get there real quick. Here's daily, let's just get to Ethereum. Me and Sock will end up probably talking forever. So
as you should.
Let's see here. Yeah. All right. So right now we're looking at ETH/US dollar, Sock. Let me move this stuff out of the way. All right. All right. So we had a nice move to the upside, 5%, followed by a 2% move to the downside, a little bit of a pullback. We're creating a little bit of support in this area. This isn't even really a trend. I would just lay this flat. I think we're on our way to test that 200 MA. What do you think?
I've got a chart I could share real quick.
Awesome.
Right, I will put it on share now.
How often are you looking at altcoins?
Depending on how much of my day I'm spending trading, I will be checking them every single day. Last couple of days I haven't been trading too much, so I haven't looked at this chart for a couple of days now. But the first thing that jumped out at me on this 4 hour is a bit of a head and shoulders that we're seeing. It's a little bit different than a textbook, and it's actually more bearish if you ask me, in terms of we've got the head up here, we've got the shoulder here, and then we've got the right shoulder. The reason why I say it's a little bit different than textbook is that the right shoulder is lower than the left shoulder, almost completely have the right shoulder below support of the left shoulder. So to me, that is a head and shoulders, and it's even more bearish than textbook because we see that horizontal support is already breaking down. And if this thing does confirm, we would have a significant measured move. Let's see, something like 360 to, oh man, that's $160 from 200. That would be an enormous move that would be coming if that does break down. At least that would be the measured move from the head and shoulders. Other thing that I have been... Do you have
any theories? Sorry to cut you off for a second there, but do you have any theories as to what will happen?
Yes, I do think that that's going to break down, and I think it's going down to below 100 before the end of the year. That is my bold prediction for Ethereum. And ETH BTC is one that I actually have been paying very close attention to because I have been in a trade for a while here shorting this thing. And I do think that this is a great opportunity to look at selling a bounce in a bear market. In bull markets, we like to buy dips. In bear markets, we like to sell bounces. And just notice, if you go to TradingView and pull up the Lucid SAR, notice how well it has been working. Just if you short when this thing breaks down, it has provided some great entries. Every time a SAR below the price gets broken, you sell, and you're doing very, very, very well. And that is what I am going to be potentially considering if we break down this SAR here at the 0.0183 level. Even though I do have a good amount of exposure, I feel confident that this thing is going to continue going lower, such that I am willing to bet bigger than normal. So keep an eye on this one. I think this could be a bounce to sell.
Yeah, so we definitely have to keep our eyes peeled when it comes to Ethereum. A lot kind of going on there that's generally confusing, and we do just have to keep updating each other and people in this space. But if we can kind of shift gears now into XRP, we haven't spoken about XRP in a while. What insights can you give us there?
So let's take a quick look at the chart. So Sock, a long time ago we had a setup trend line all the way back here. And I just drew out an array to keep this going because basically what I saw was the creation of a channel. We broke it a couple times, sustained a little bit of upside action, but just keep returning to this area. I think that there's I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but I just see this XRP playing out a channel type scenario with few external variables that cause some serious hype. MoneyGram is already yesterday's news. We obviously have some technical indicators breaking us down across the a death cross on the 5200. We already completed our death cross on the 5125. So I'm bearish on this asset, but we have been supported constantly by this setup trend line that started all the way back in December 2018. So I do feel like we have support, but once that's gone, I think we're looking pretty bad. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree that it has been support, and it will continue to be until it isn't. Each time that it is supported from there, it has gotten a lower bounce, which tells me that the support is becoming exhausted. I think about it as like termites eating away at some wood. Each time we come down and test that support, we're eating away at it. And if that breaks down, watch the heck out. That is going to dump. Everybody that has been buying it and acting as support has been expecting it to eventually break out and enter a bull market. If that doesn't happen, they're going to start to panic, and the move from there could be huge. It has been ranging for a very long time, and the longer a market ranges, the bigger the next move is expected to be, and that is no exception as far as I'm concerned.
And again, oh, sorry, go for it, Joe.
Let me ask you this. We have Bitcoin has a hodl movement. It started the hodl movement, right? Now, XRP has a very, just say, serious support, right? I'm talking maybe even more than Bitcoin in some ways. So you still think that with the hope associated with a lot of these crypto assets, you still see that same psychology playing out?
Yeah, I don't think that XRP has more support than Bitcoin. I just think they're more vocal. The people that do buy into it are very, very passionate and single-minded. And that is the perfect scenario for this chart pattern that we're seeing, where everybody's buying support, but the market forces are such that the market is going to beat these people who are acting out of emotion and blindly trusting in an asset that they maybe don't really fully understand. So I fully expect those people to get punished sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Oren, just to make you laugh real quick, I'm wearing a shirt right now that says, "This shirt is more decentralized than Ripple."
Joe, after I heard the Litecoin story, apparently Joe used to be a shitcoiner, very proud of himself for it. It started off with Litecoin, and we learned this now, and we can never look at Joe we can never look at Joe the same way again. But that shirt is absolutely fantastic. I wanted to thank you boys very much for being on with us today and breaking those charts down for us and giving us some insights. Thank you, Sawcruhteez and Joe Saz. For all of you out there, keep watching BLOCKTV.com for more cryptocurrency and blockchain related news.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.